everybody. I'm Dan Cooper. Welcome to the Sharpening Podcast, brought to you by Acumen, an exclusive community of CEOs and business owners to help you grow your top line, optimize your bottom line, and enrich your storyline. We have a special treat for you today as we sit down with Acumen's founder, who went from founder of Acumen and crossed over to become a member. We dig into why did he start Acumen? What did you learn leading CEOs? And then what he did learning get back into the CEO seat with a growing organization. It's a fun full circle here. So today, my guest is Drew Hiss. He's chairman of Acumen and fresh off his CEO assignment with another membership organization. Drew, welcome to the show.
Dan, it is an absolute privilege to be on your show on this very extremely exciting podcast for the Acumen organization, and certainly is very near and dear to me. Excited to be
Uh,
on.
yeah, it's we've probably had this conversation in some way, shape, or form like 40 other times. So it's fun to hit record and do this. So
Right, right.
let's back up and give a little origin story. You've hit for the cycle, as we'll call it, founding and merging of one company, founding of another, and running some more. So um, back up and give us the how you got to here.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great. Thanks for asking. Great story of how Acumen came to be, really, and I would say it was out of the fiery furnace of all these learnings as an entrepreneur and business owner myself, founding of an organization called Check Date Solutions, and through that journey as an entrepreneur, all these landmines that you just don't know exist, and without a team of people around you, advisors, wise counsel, uh, the opportunity to blow some limbs off is highly, highly likely, and some can be very expensive. And it's so really what compelled me and was a Kickstarter for this work of Acumen, Dan, was all those lessons learned that many of which were very, very expensive, as we captured in the book, Sharpen. Many of those could have been avoided with wise counsel, or the trajectory of those could have been propelled in a different direction. And in that is just, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, some of the lessons have to be learned. You don't just show up and bat for 1,000 in a baseball game. Even the best baseball players, Hall of Famers, barely hit 3 for 10. And so, but at some level, can you hit 5 for 10? Can you hit 7 for 10? And that's what I felt like, gosh, if we could create a really, really powerful and impactful circle of peers that were fellow Christian CEOs specifically, where there's values alignment, that man, we could have something really, really special. And it would have been something I would have so appreciated that I didn't have. So that absence
Definitely.
is really was part of what was like, oh my gosh, if I'd had something like that, I could have had so many accelerants in my business that I didn't have.
I, that that rings familiar for me too. That's part of my why is I know how not to do lots of things. And so if other people can learn from that wisdom, it's worthwhile. Okay, so uh, in Acumen, you come alongside owners and CEOs. And what did you learn from leading your business now to coming alongside them in a cohort and then one-on-one?
There's so many different things. I mean, obviously, when you're leading a cohort like this, you're also sitting around the table with them. And I think the key for anybody out there that might be listening that's considering being a growth catalyst with Acumen is you don't have to be sort of the know-it-all and have all the answers. In fact, it's better that you not have that approach and have a more humble approach of I don't have the answers, but I'm going to help walk through the journey with this person that might be having some difficulty or challenges, or might be pursuing an opportunity and just needs some wise counsel. And it was really an intimidating piece of it for me in the early days. Like, I was a bit insecure about, I don't have all the answers, and I'm going to be sitting across the table from some really terrific business leaders, and they're going to be looking to me for the answers. And at the end of the day, when you have that council of wisdom, 12 to 14, owners around the circle, oh my gosh, I have was always astonished by from whom the wise nugget came from. or who might be struggling with a challenge that you kind of put on a pedestal and go, I can't believe they're struggling with that. That's This guy is way beyond where I thought that issue was. And so there's all these surprises, and but in that is this rich, this rich sharing of life experiences, both in business but generally in life. I mean, we're dealing, when you get into this council environment, as you well know, uh, it's kind of Katie bar the door on the types of issues that could come up. I mean, certainly, probably 85% of them are business centric, but oh my gosh, there's many other life issues that surface, whether it might be marriage or family or, other dynamics and challenges in life.
I'll put you on the spot. You have an
Yep.
example that protects the peoples and yet illustrates your point.
I think, I mean, one that really pops out for me, and it's not necessarily that it's a unique situation, but it's illustrative of this notion that probably 85 to 90% of businesses challenges in business are people in leadership. And a particular gentleman was struggling with a high performing individual that, as we've all had in our organizations, high performers don't always, uh, you know, couple that with humility, and it was turning into a heavy clash. And he was ready to scorch the earth on this guy and move him on. And I remember having this coaching session where I'm like, hey, I've got a great tool. I think it might be helpful, help course correct. It's it's really something that allows you to have a healthy confrontation with this guy, and maybe help him see things from your perspective in a way that he understands consequences, he understands what the outcome could be, and at the end of the day, that issue to me seemed somewhat easy to solve, but I don't know the full context of it because I only see a piece of it. But at the end of the day, he was able to use that tool and that coaching and engage with that guy. The guy did course correct, and he ended up producing an immense amount of business, something north of $20 million in revenue for the organization over a window of time in a really relatively short period of time. And just kind of a great example of coming alongside somebody with what seems like sort of an ordinary people challenge, but really high stakes opportunity, and how that turned out really positive for this organization and the individual, but also the employee. I mean, instead of that guy walking home that night and saying, "I just got canned," he was able to redeem and course correct and turn into a productive citizen as relates to being involved with that company.
There's ROI all over the place there. There's hard dollar ROI, and then
Oh,
there's
for sure.
all the soft ROI that goes with that. It's always hard to measure when you have a situation, challenge, or opportunity, the ROI. So that's a great example. Okay, you did something interesting. You went from leading a team to having an opportunity to jump back into the CEO seat. So one, what? What? Why? You see the chaos in the knife fight that is that, and yet there was an opportunity that was interesting enough to you that you said yes. So tell that
Dan,
story.
I don't, I look back at life, and I'm 61 years into this journey now, and you look back at these different things that take place incrementally in your life, and a lot of times you go, how did that occur? What took place at that moment that caused me to engage with that or do this? And I look back at even starting Check Date Solutions, and what was the catalyst for that at that time, and then starting Acumen. What was the catalyst for that at the time in my life, and then the same circumstances for this. And Sarah and and I look back at each of those and I go, there was an element of calling. There was an element of purposefulness that was placed on my heart that I don't have the answer for. I can only look up and go, had to be Holy Spirit. It had to be the Lord from above pinging my heart and my head into emotion. Sarah and I were part of this membership organization, and we had the good fortune of being invited to be part of it, and had no notions of taking over leadership ever. There was leadership in place when we took on the assignment of being members, and then uh, there was a void of leadership during that process. And about 2.5, 3 years in, I really felt God calling me to, like, if not you stepping into this new season of leadership that is needed, then who? And those were exact words I journaled. Um, I just remember kind of almost being convicted out of my chair to throw my hat in the ring for this position of as a CEO of the organization. We had a team of about 15 people, so not a huge team, but one that needed good leadership because so much of what took place at the membership level, of course, was, dictated by that team and orchestrated by that team. But that was what kickstarted it. And I've really felt called, and there were so many things that took place that sort of paved the way for it to even be possible. Uh, in order for you to hand off a team in our world, you've got to have a very competent and strong and effective leader to take your position. I mean, you've set a bar. At least I think naturally all of our GCs have set a high bar because we have a high bar. We don't just let anybody come in and be a growth catalyst in Acumen. So there was a gentleman in the team that I was leading that had transacted his business and was kind of looking for another, step in his journey. And so the timing of that, and he was able to take over the team, and it really kind of paved the way for me to have an exit stage right and go pursue this opportunity. And so the timing of that the way it took place was kind of supernatural as well. And gosh, I look back at it now, and it was about an 18-month window. I knew when I took that position and that opportunity that it was going to be a relay. I knew it was not a, forever opportunity. And it really turned into be, more of a 4x100, 4x200 relay versus a 4x1 mile relay, which was fine. I mean, the season that we were focused on was so critical to this country. I mean, the things that we were pursuing as an organization were um, really just uber critical to the godly heritage of our country, and where we felt it was important for us to lock arms and convene and fuel and mobilize our resources as an organization. And I'm not going to step into a political pool of discussion here, but I think we are seeing some of the fruits of the labor of our organization, but also many others who locked arms and joined in the fight for what we hope is a new golden era in our country.
Oh, you can't tell that there's any passion behind where you're at or what you want to go do.
I could get
The
my 47 hat on if you want me to, Danny.
the the interesting thing from you, so you're sitting next to CEOs and you're playing coach, and you're coming alongside them, and then you jump back into the seat with all the people, process, finance, all the challenges that you go. What was that like, jumping back into the stream that moves fast, break things, and that comes with all the challenges there?
Yeah, as you said, break things, and there were a lot of things broken, and that was in a lot of ways it was a bit of a turnaround opportunity too. I viewed this as a somewhat of a chemistry lab experiment, if you will, and it was an opportunity to take all the learnings from when I ran, my company, to the learnings from the table, if you will, for the last 12 years, 11, 12 years, and really say, okay, what are the best of breed things that are going on? What are the best tools? What are the best systems, best processes? And so I just kind of, started dumping all those into the little mixing jar in the lab, and deployed EOS, Culture Index. I plugged my own tail feathers into an Acumen CEO team and became a participant. Became mindful of how important it was to top grade our people in the organization, and really focused on building a great team, and how to transform the organizational health to one where people felt valued and heard. And then you've got this membership constituency out that you're trying to satisfy as well. And we did membership surveys and really got positive feedback about the new direction of the organization. So it was a big lift internally, but it was also a big lift externally to our membership organization as well. And I would just say, walking out, I couldn't be more thrilled about the outcome of the results and sort of a validation of how effective these tools that you and I and other growth catalysts and members of the organization have seen work so effectively, be able to work really not only effectively but quickly in the organization and have such a dramatic impact.
How did you decide which tools you wanted to take? And where do you start? You got to start with something. And so, of all the tools you implemented, what was the base?
Well, part of it was kind of prescriptively looking at, hey, what's missing here? Here's an organization that, at least from the internal team standpoint, had no clarity of direction. Not one person on the team knew what the organization's vision was. Not one person in the organization, I'm talking not only the internal team, but the board of directors, executive committee, nobody knew what the vision was. Nobody knew what the organization's values were. And so if you really don't, if you don't have some of the block and tackle pieces in place where you've got clarity and focus, how do you really know where you're going? And it felt like when I took on the role, there was just sort of this element of organized chaos, unorganized chaos going on. And so we had to figure out, how do we get people on the same page, working in this, going in the same direction, have, high levels of communication and point the organization toward a more singular focused effort and really kind of divest of things that are not contributing to that focus. And so that helped form, certainly EOS is a phenomenal tool to help organizations and leaders get on the same page. It helps build a great leadership team, but then further, it helps really identify accountability chart. I walked in and there was no org chart, and not that an org chart is critical to, an organization's functionality, but when people don't know who does what by when, I don't know how you really ever perform. So it was a list of employees. That's what I had. And so through the EOS tool and the 90.io companion tool, we were able to create an accountability chart. We implemented culture index so we could better understand people's skills and God-given talents and match those with the position needs that were required. And so it really helped us get people in the right seats on the bus. And and then deploying at US helped us create the cadence of meetings and communication and solving issues, IDSing, and really have getting a lot of work done quickly and remove the ambiguity that existed before that time. That's an example of one. I mean, there's other
Yeah.
things we implemented that were, you'd kind of look at and go, gosh, that seemed pretty basic, but that was, some of this stuff you kind of look at it through the lens of, okay, what's the 20% that could have 80% of the outcome? And you do then the 80/20 on the 20%. And so what's the next turn on that dial that can have the biggest impact? Can't do it all. And change is hard on people. That's the other thing, a big learning I had is we, went after a lot of change in a short period of time. And some people were loving it. I mean, there were people on the team that absolutely were soaking it up. And then there were other people that were just like, oh my God, I can't handle all this change. Da, 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 da. And we just kind of had to drag them through it. I mean, we knew we had to go there, but there was a lot of moaning and groaning about it.
How do you how do you drag people through that in a good way? That's because
Focus
change
on the
is the
vision,
hardest.
focus on what's going to be the outcome. And that's where we had to just keep going with not only internal team, but external, and keep focusing on that vision, keep focusing on the purpose statement of the organization, renewing America's identity as a Christian nation, and keep that focus singular, and focus on what our mission is: to convene, mobilize, and fuel organizations to create these outcomes we hope take place in the culture around us, to reclaim our nation. Those were the words that kept, being the soundbite out of our mouth. And when people were like groaning and moaning, you just got to go, hey, this is a step. Come with us. Let's go. It was,
How many people got off the bus in this transition?
uh, we had, we helped, um, I want to say 4 or 5 people off the bus that just were, it was clear that they weren't really a good fit for where we were headed, and they didn't really have a good seat on the bus. I mean, that's the reality too. Sometimes there are, uh, through this journey, you have to have very honest conversations and be intolerant of poor performers that don't want it, don't have the capacity, and don't have the uh, really don't have the want to do it. And so you've got to get honest about that. And at some point, those you may meet those crossroads at different parts of the journey as well, right? It doesn't always happen right up front. In fact, it's almost better sometimes it doesn't. If it's organic, then it's very apparent and it's not as dramatic to the organization and the other peers around in the team.
So when you started Acumen, this is the bonus question, but it has a different flavor today because it came out of your head and your heart. We are today what you coined plain glass for stained glass. And so plain glass is this people, performance, profit, excellence. And yet there's a stained glass heart in that we're on the Jesus journey and we try as best we can to live the values in our relationship with Him. What was your journey to this particular value that we hold on to today? And how is it coming out of you?
I look back at my entrepreneurial career, and one of our foundational values with Check Date Solutions was to honor God in all we do. And we were visible about it. We were overt about it. We didn't hide that, sort of behind the back door, behind the front door, so that when we propped the door open for business, you couldn't see it. I mean, it was out there. And just had several stories and situations where people saw that and sort of tried to take advantage of it, if you will, and use that as sort of a gain favor mechanism. And and then, frankly, also did some business deals with people that I thought, that were just, they were verbally very face centric, but uh, the way they conducted their business affairs was a direct contradiction to that verbal statement, if you will. Got stung, got bit by the fish. I like to refer to, and I think a lot of people in the marketplace have had that sentiment, had that situation, had that sort of an encounter or even a business deal that went sour among believers. And so at some level, I go, I want this community to be, or in my books, organic, and I want people to understand that what drives this is that we're not perfect. We're not going to go to market espousing how wonderful we are as Christ followers. We're going to go to market and say, hey, we we're going to be the best of class at helping you and your organization become more effective as a leader, be more effective in your business results, your business performance. We're going to deal with real life issues, and we're going to deal with them through the lens of worldly outcomes, but a foundation of biblical worldview. But we don't have to go to market and wave the flag. Let's go to market and say, this is the best of class opportunity. You're going to be among peers who are high performers, and they share a common worldview through a biblical foundation, and sort of reverse that, thinking, and hence, like you said, plain glass before stained glass. And when that comes up, the belief structure, the belief system of that individual, hopefully they're going to be attracted to us because of the outcomes of the organizations and the peers in the organization versus the marketing chutzpah that we're trying to uh, pitch their way as to why they should be part of the community. And I also would tell you too, Dan, I spent some time affiliated with an organization in our space, and it was also sort of an affirmation that it felt like every time they went to market, it was always, scripture this, verse this, Jesus that, and everything felt very couch. It almost felt too churchy. And I know that for many people out in the world of the commerce sector, there's a spectrum where some people are very uh, I mean, that might be a very appealing to them. Like, oh gosh, I got to run toward that because I just did my quiet time this morning for a half hour, and I need more of that. And so they're, on this continuum of their faith, they might be a 9 or 10 on how mature they are in their faith with Christ. But on the other hand, there's a larger percentage of people in the marketplace that maybe you aren't that far along in that journey. In fact, they may be super immature in that journey and just aren't comfortable being around other people who are at the 9 or 10 on that, maturity in their faith and comfort with their uh, relationship with Jesus. And so we want to, the idea was let's not be off-putting to those people that are, open-minded to this idea and actually share our values and but yet haven't maybe have they don't have the depth, the root system's not there. And let's bring them, let's make it appealing and make the aroma attractive so that they want to be part of a community where they can come in and deepen those roots and be alongside other guys who actually view the world around them through a biblical worldview lens and not a woke DEI ESG lens, and they value that shared common ground.
Definitely. There's usually a lot of truth in business, but there also needs to be grace. And so I always see this happen a lot is this grace and truth live in this wonderful tension, which is what makes good business. Because if you have too much of one or the other, things get soft, or things get too hard. And
Amen.
so it's a great way to do that. It's a great way to do that. All right. So where can our listeners find out more about Drew Hiss?
Well, there's always LinkedIn. That's an easy one. I think I'm the only Drew Hiss on the platform, unless somebody else is, identifying as Drew Hiss. Uh, Drew.hiss at acumenimpact.com. And, more information out on our website, acumenimpact.com as well.
Uh, so some takeaways from today. One, where are you in your adventure? And what have you heard? Are you still going down the same path? Is there any offshoots? Some people have a 7-year itch, some have a 10, and some are on a long obedience in the same journey of 15 or 25 years. Do you know where you are? Do you know where you're supposed to be going?
It's a great question. I get asked that very frequently now, of course. And when I went through the halftime, after I merged the company and stepped away from Paycor, which became the merged company with my organization. Back in the late 2000s, I went through the Halftime Institute journey, and in that I learned a lot about some of my past, and I've even seen it sort of manifest itself again over this last 10, 15 years. And that's that I'm a builder. I love building. I love the early stage ramp up of organizations and launch. And I even to some extent enjoyed sort of a overhaul and uh, reinvention, if you will, of an organization. Parts of that were a lift. I'm not sure I'm that excited about in the future. I'd rather find something with less resistance and less headwind, if you will. But uh, I don't know. I don't know where God's calling me into next. I've been reading a book called Experiencing God, Blackaby. It's timeless. It's not a new one, and I got the newer edition of the book, but just in that he talks about how much, certainly embracing how much God just loves us. Doesn't matter what we're doing. He just loves us unconditionally, unfailing love every day. Never changes. The other thing is be aware of where God's at work and join him. And so I'm trying to be mindful of less about striving, more about an awareness where God's at work and then joining him. And I've had several things dot my radar, opportunities already sort of presented to, engage with groups and organizations and opportunities, and just prayerfully trying to assess what God wants me to do next and be obedient to that. That's really the obedience is really a piece of the story this last 18 to 20 months of my life reflects is I wouldn't tell you I was dying to go run that organization, but it felt like, and I know we kind of, I kind of allude to it as in an innocuous way because it is. It's that organization was sort of um, uh, deliberately a off the grid secret community of families across the country, very unique in that way, and so that's why we leave it kind of innocuous as we reference it here on the call. But um, it wasn't something I was out looking for. God found me, and He's like, "Dude, you got to jump in the game. Let's go."
Yeah. So the question you need to ask yourself is, what game am I playing? And then is that in obedience or surrender or wherever I'm supposed to be in the
Right.
journey? Second thing was tools of blocking and tackling. One of the fancy things we see in Acumen is um, most people just need to be reminded of the simple things and the biggest tools that are out there, and then all the knob twisting, lever pulling goes. So you had your set of tools that you took from your experience and acumen out into the place, and they work. So find yourself a community and build your set of tools. And then finally, is this walking the talk. So where's your heart? Where's your head? And how do you honor where you are on the Jesus journey and go along with others? It's a fun journey, but you do have to decide to go on it with other people. All right. If you're well, parting thoughts, man. That was a lot of stuff in there. Anything I didn't ask you?
I just maybe want to emphasize the importance of that last comment you made about being alongside, you know, others in community. And, I think God created us to be in community and relationship. And that's such an important piece of this. There were times I felt uh, naturally as a CEO, isolation and this aloneness, and having my comrades in the Acumen team there to come alongside me during some challenging stuff um, couldn't have been more powerful. And it was just uh, affirmation of how important that type of community, that kind of circle, that kind of high trust environment with aligned worldview aligned people it is. And I'm very fortunate that the Acumen Triumph team was a resource for me during this journey.
So that's a perfect segue, Drew. If you're interested in becoming a member of Acumen, go to acumenimpact.com and click on the apply button. Or if you'd like to learn more, we have a ton of great content under the resources tab, including that tool that Drew mentioned. We'll put it in the show notes. We call it Fetch. It's the effective confrontation and with healthy outcomes. So, Drew, thanks for coming on the show today. We'll be watching and see what you do next.
Dan, thank you. Appreciate you having me on, and love being on and love the organization. Appreciate you. Appreciate your leadership, buddy. Thank you.
Peace.